Manchester United lose 3-1 to Manchester City in the Carabao Cup, and I think we can safely say that flattered us, that result flattered us. One thing that comes into my mind just before I went live, actually, a statement that we've heard from Manchester United a lot this month. It's worth remembering this, that Manchester United will only delve into the transfer market if they can find somebody that improves their squad. Hilarious, absolutely hilarious. And I think that's the line I would say. This is what I would say. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Now, whether that means to you, Ollie out, whether that means Glazers out, whatever, enough is enough with this football club and what's going on. Something drastically needs to change. We can't keep meandering through Ollie out, Glazers out, those players aren't good enough. We've got to look at the collective and say, what is the vision and where are we going? I look at United today, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been there for 13 months. He's been there 13 months, really. And I still look at it and go, this is a work experience boy with his mates sat next to him. They are out of their depth, tactically out of their depth. And that is sad. I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I love Michael Carrick. They are legends of this club as far as I'm concerned. But this is our club. They played for our club. And when you retire, you go. You don't get to have the job just because you were a legend of the club. Manchester United needs to evolve. It needs to move on. And it must always be challenging to be the best club in the world. That performance today, that was wetter than an otter's pocket. It was awful. It was absolutely dreadful. And the fact that we got a goal back into it, 3-1, you get 3-2, you've maybe got a chance. You've maybe got a chance in the second leg. We never looked like getting another goal. We got one goal back because Man City went from 6th gear to 3rd gear. They made a mistake. Gomez made a good tackle. Greenwood feeds in Rashford and he finishes it. You know, it was a training ground goal. It was just going through the motions. It was a really good goal. But it comes from what we've seen all season. Hitting a team on the break when they make a mistake and leave space. That is not a tactic. That is not a journey. That is not a vision. Get scoring goals and winning games because people make mistakes and then we score. I mean, I said it against Burnley when Burnley make a mistake. Pereira gets it, crosses it to, I think it was it Martial, and he scores. And everyone said, yeah, but it was our press that forced the mistake. It wasn't really. The defender got himself in all sorts of trouble and Pereira won it well. But what my point from Burnley was, and my point with our goal today is, these are mistakes by the opposition. They're not coming from pressing, really. It's coming from lazy on the ball, whatever you want to say it. But all right, let's say it's the press. It's not a way to play football. It's not a way to play football to wait for a mistake from the opposition and then score on the counter-attack. Look at the way proper teams are playing football. They get hold of the ball and they win games from what they do with the ball. We don't have any possession of the ball. We don't create chances. I think this is, and as I said, enough is enough. This is not a vision. This is not a way to play football. And what really annoys me as I go through things from that game, and we'll do the player ratings in a moment, is that it was really, really, really obvious from the very first minute that we needed 3 in the midfield. And he didn't do it till half-time. It was really, really obvious never to pick Jesse Lingard again. And he did it yet again. In what could be our biggest game of the season. Because, yeah, I want to win the Europa League. I want to get top 4. And I'd like to go deep into the FA Cup. But we might not do any of those things. But a Carabao Cup semi-final is you're one game away from winning a cup if you get into the final. So it was a big opportunity tonight. And we ruined it. He ruined it by... I mean, the Glazers are useless. Woodward's no good. The coaching staff, the fitness, I've said it so many times, it isn't good enough. From top to bottom, that club is broken. But nobody told anybody to pick Jesse Lingard tonight other than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That is inexcusable. That's got to be the headline for me. Why pick Jesse Lingard? Question mark. Angel Gomez came on, and I thought, you know, when he threw Gomez on, when we're 3-0 down, with half an hour to go, and we haven't seen him play for weeks, I thought, why are we chucking Angel Gomez into a game like this? What a baptism of fire. He actually looked better than Lingard's looked in a year in half an hour. And you wonder, how many games have we been picking Lingard where he's done next to nothing and Gomez could have played and we could have been building a future? Lingard needs to go. It's sad, but he needs to go. He is not a footballer of this level. He is just not. And regardless of what's going on with his home life, it's very sad, but this is professional football, and I felt that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer made a massive mistake by picking him tonight. There is no justification. There wasn't one hint of why we would pick him, and there hasn't been for months, so I don't get that. I mean, that to me was mistake massive number 1. There was no justification to pick him. But the worrying thing is, if you look at that, that leads us into the tactical mess, because Lingard, I predicted would play. He shouldn't have played, but I predicted he would play, because when we played at the Etihad, and the way Man City normally play, they play on the front foot, and if your number 10 can get it, he can spin into space. And that means Lingard can spin into space, and that's the only thing he's ever been good at. But tonight, it was very obvious with the team that Man City picked, they weren't going to do the way they normally played. They didn't play with a number 9. They played with De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva swapping as false nines. And they kept coming into the midfield. So they were going to swamp the midfield. So straight away, we never should have played with a number 10. Because you're always going to play with your front three of Greenwood and Rashford and James. They're always going to play. But playing an auxiliary forward in a number 10 leaves you with two men in the midfield against 4 Man City players. And that happened all first half. And that's why at half time, we should have been 5-0 down. Let's not forget, at 3-0, Sterling missed 2 chances. And I think it was Bernardo Silva, a world-class save from David De Gea. We could have been 5-0 down, 6-0 down at half-time. He saw that on minute 1. He saw it after the first goal, he saw it after the second goal, and he saw it after the third goal. And he still didn't make a change until half-time, when we could have been 5-0 down. This is Manchester United Football Club. I think he didn't do it till half-time for 2 reasons. One, he couldn't figure out what was going on, but I don't believe that. Everybody knew. Fans knew. Everybody knew he needed another person in the midfield. I personally think he did it because he didn't want to embarrass taking Jesse Lingard off in the first half. Well, sorry, Mourinho's done that for years. Frank Lampard did it last week. He took a player off after half an hour. You've got to do that. If you're a coach at the highest level, you can't ignore the fact that you're getting your arse handed on a plate and you could be 5-0 down at half-time. You've got to make the change. And in the second half, he takes Lingard off, he brings Matic on, he does exactly what we were talking about. He gets an extra body in the midfield. He tells Matic to sit there with Pereira and Fred next to him, and it's better. You know, Man City did drop down the gears, but it was better. To ignore that, to not even get the hint when the team news comes in, they're not playing with they're playing with a false 9, they're going to swamp the midfield. But then to not do anything about that for 45 minutes, on top of picking Lingard in the first place, that's not just Ollie, that's Carrick, that's McKenna, that's Phelan, that's if we had a competent board and a director of football, they would be like, we need him in the office tomorrow morning. Like that. What? I can see that, you know. My gran saw that, you know. How did you not see that? And why didn't you react to it? Well, I didn't want to take Jesse off. Well, sod that. We're Manchester United. You've just humiliated us in front of the whole world. You've just made us look like bloody Burnley. What's going on? So that to me was just shocking. The first half, to not tactically change that in the first half, it was beyond a joke. I also thought I'm going to do the player ratings in a mo, but I also thought that Brandon Williams had a bad game tonight. Not terrible. He kept going. I think he's going to be a brilliant left back in the future, but I don't think he had a good game today. But I think part of that was down to the coaching as well, because I said this before the game. You look at that back four there. You've got Williams, Jones, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka. What's the common theme there? Wan-Bissaka and Lindelof play together all the time. They're first teamers. Jones hasn't played since the catastrophe of Sheffield United, and Brandon Williams is a young player. If you were picking your back four, would you put Calamity Jones next to your young player and have your 2 experienced first teamers together, or would you put Lindelof with the first team centre back with the young left back, and Calamity Jones with solid Wan-Bissaka? That's what he should have done. He didn't. He put Jones with Williams, and he put Wan-Bissaka on the side with and Lindelof on the side with Wan-Bissaka. And I think that added to the problem of Brandon Williams, because he got double teamed loads. He got Kyle Walker coming at him, Mahrez coming at him. He got Phil Jones, who can't figure out what his job is. And he was just, I think Brandon Williams, actually, I'm not going to give him a bad mark. I'm going to give him a good mark, because he was hung out to dry. He's a young lad, and he got absolutely hung out to dry because he had Phil Jones next to him. And let's be honest, Rashford didn't track back much either. So I feel sorry for him. He absolutely got swamped today. And that fed into him, getting skinned a few times, getting done over. He's probably bloody knackered. He'll sleep well tonight. So I thought, again, that was another tactically bad thing to do. But what I would say here is, talking about Brandon Williams and Mason Greenwood, I think we could all agree they didn't have great games today. But this is the problem when Ollie talks about youth, and we're all about youth, and Gary Neville said it, and a lot of you have said it. When it comes to the future of Manchester United, you can't just chuck Brandon Williams and Mason Greenwood and Angel Gomez into that team and expect them to turn into Scholes, and Gary Neville and Beckham. It's not going to happen because those players came in and were nurtured by Roy Keane and Eric Cantona and Peter Schmeichel and Steve Bruce and Dennis Irwin, absolute leaders in that team. Those young lads today, they're in that team, they're looking around, they're young lads, and there's no one. You know, Marcus Rashford's got the armband. It's an accessory. He's not a captain. He's a young lad himself. That midfield, there's no leaders in there. There's no leaders on that pitch. And that is a massive problem for Manchester United. And that is why people keep saying, it's all right going and signing another 20-year-old or a James Maddison or a Jack Grealish. When are we going to go and sign some people that can come into this club and actually lead? We need some experienced players. We don't want to do it, though, because experience we look at are dead ringers, you know, people who are 32 and done. You've got to go and get a 25, 26-year-old, but they're expensive, and the club don't like doing that. They'd rather get a 21, 22-year-old who's a little bit cheaper with potential. But until you bring in a few 25, 26-year-olds who are seasoned, experienced players to nurture some of these younger players, we're always going to be this leaderless team. We need some leaders to come into that team. Man of the match. I normally do this a little bit earlier. My man of the match, I tell you what, it's going to go against the grain, but if you watch the game, you'll know it. David De Gea was man of the match. He made 3 or 4 world-class saves tonight. He didn't put a foot wrong. None of the goals were his fault, and he kept it from being humiliating. I know that's not fashionable at the moment because people want to go in on De Gea. They want to talk about Romero starting or bringing Henderson back, but De Gea, nobody really came out of that game well. But for me, the 2 players that did, Wan-Bissaka never put a foot wrong. Man City didn't even. Sterling was in his pocket, and Sterling didn't do anything. But Man City should have beat us 4 or 5-0 easily. But they didn't want to go down our left-hand side, and they didn't go down our right-hand side. Sorry, because Wan-Bissaka played well, and De Gea was superb, absolutely superb. De Gea, you know, I think. Yeah, De Gea deserves the criticism, but in the past. But just because we've lost the game, you can't say that De Gea didn't have a brilliant game. He did. So smash a like on the video if De Gea was your man of the match. I thought he was the man of the match comfortably. But I mean, another thing I want to say as well is tactically. I mean, we're talking about tactics a lot here. I've noticed this a lot. Some of our tactics are almost on the back of a beer mat for a pub team. Look at Arsenal, look at Wolves, and look at Man City today. I was super impressed with the first 7 minutes of those games. The press was ridiculous. No matter where the ball the opposition had, at the Emirates, at Molineux and at Old Trafford, in that first 7 minutes, we pressed as a front 6 and we pushed them right back and we had them worried. After 7 minutes exactly, we stopped doing it for the rest of the game. What the hell is that all about? How can you go hell for leather for 7 minutes and press really well and then totally stop doing it after 7 minutes? Like, what's the point? Like, why do it? Because if you can't do it for a prolonged period of time, it becomes irrelevant. Like, what you're trying to do, win the game in the first 7 minutes. You can't. It's just odd. It's an odd thing to do. And we've done it for 3 games in a row. And I can't fathom it. I really can't fathom why we do that. And also a problem we've got is when we go behind, we've lost. When we go behind in most games, I know we came back against Sheffield United, but when we go behind, we look done. And look, Arsenal fans were on the watch-along today, and I don't know why I'm doing that. Arsenal fans were on the watch-along today, and they were going, well, we've lost to City, you move on. This is like you losing to Spurs. It's like, this is Manchester. This is a Manchester derby. It's a great leveller. You don't get comprehensively done over in a derby and then just go, oh, it's just one of those days. It's a Manchester derby. It's at Old Trafford. That's not you can't just say, oh, Man City are one of the best teams in the world. Well, Man City are not one of the best teams in the world. Man City are vulnerable this year. They didn't start Aguero or Jesus. Like, they are vulnerable this year. They've got no Laportes. They are vulnerable. And we never made them look vulnerable. It was too easy. At the second half, they switched off. We got a lucky goal because they made a mistake. We get to 3-1. There's about 20 minutes to go. If we get another goal, we've got something to play for in the second leg. We never looked like scoring again after that. I mean, I think 3-1 flatters us, to be honest. I think it makes it look a little bit respectful when it was just totally shambolic. Tactically shambolic. I felt for the players tonight. I know the players get a lot of stick, but I think, I've seen something over the last couple of days that's really opened my eyes up as to how bad the coaching is at Manchester United. Klopp on Sunday with his reserves. Those Liverpool reserves are not better players than Manchester United football team, but they would beat us because they're coached better. Leeds United are not a better team have not got better players than we've got. But they would beat us because they've got better coaching. And I've seen that over the last 2 days in a row. And then we've capped it off tonight. And we saw it with Pep tonight as well. But you expect it from Pep. He absolutely tactically schooled Ollie tonight because he was pissed off with what happened at the Etihad. He was a bit arrogant. He went gung-ho like City do. They left the door open and we hit them on the break. Tonight, he was like, well, I know how to deal with you. I'm going to keep Gundogan and Rodri close to my centre-backs. We're going to play a high line so Lingard and Rashford can't spin in. You're going to have to hit a perfect ball over the top for your forwards to get onto, but you haven't got anybody who can do it. It was brilliant. It was easy, but it was brilliant. Pep, I saw him in the first 5 minutes. He was saying to his centre-backs, push up high. And I was like, oh, that's weird. That's interesting because we're quick. But then I thought, well, actually, what he's doing is he's pushing his centre-backs close to his two midfielders of Gundogan and Rodri so that Lingard can't spin into space, which is his only skill. And also, he's inviting us to hit the long ball over the top. His keeper, like Ederson, Bravo, knows how to come off his line and play as a sweeper keeper. And also, we haven't got midfielders who can play a 40-yard ball over the top. We ain't got Pogba. So it was perfect. We were redundant then, and then he won the midfield anyway. It's absolutely nullified our one plan A, which we all have to accept now. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his coaches only know one way of playing, and that is hitting teams on the break when they attack us, and that's all we've got. And Pep nullified it today perfectly, apart from one mistake in the second half, and that was it. Tactically, disaster class, absolutely. Please do smash a like on the video. I'm gonna just do your player ratings for you now, and then we'll take some of your comments. So De Gea for me gets an 8. Well deserved. He's been getting 4s and 5s recently. Watch it back. He made 3 or 4 really good saves. Couldn't do anything on any of the goals. In fact, the third goal, he made a good save. It just Pereira put it in. So not his fault. I thought he had a good game. I'm going to give Wan-Bissaka a 7. I thought, again, they didn't want to go at Wan-Bissaka at all. He did his job really, really well. I'm going to give Brandon Williams a 6. I'm going to give him a generous 6, I think, because I thought he was hung out to dry by not having Lindelof next to him. And he kept going, and he did get skinned a few times, but he's a young lad, and Man City are a good side. And you shouldn't be... The whole point of young players, and I'm going to do the same with Greenwood, I'm going to give him a 6 as well, which is average, but, some people might say it was below, but they're young players. They need nurturing, and I think in the circumstances, they will grow from this. So I will take the positives from that. Phil Jones, where's 4? Can be a 4. Look, I don't think he was actually as bad as Lindelof, who I'm going to give a 3. Lindelof, totally at fault for the second goal, and looked all over the place in the first half. Got better in the second half when he got more protection from the midfield, but he had a really bad game, Lindelof. Phil Jones, I think I would blame him for the first goal. I think he's got to move out and close down Bernardo Silva. Fred can't pick everybody up. He's just not a very good defender, is he, Phil Jones? So 4 for me. Pereira, 5. Lots of running, but I think the problem with Pereira today is that if you're going to give a De Bruyne and a Bernardo Silva and a Gundogan and a Rodri 7s and 8s, you can't be giving Pereira a 6. He got absolutely dominated by better players than him. And that question about Pereira remains. What is he? Is he a championship midfielder? Is he a Bournemouth midfielder? Is he a top 6 midfielder? I don't think he's a top 6 midfielder. I think Pereira, his best position is as an attacking midfielder, and he's not an attacking midfielder. He doesn't play in that role, so I'd give him a 5. Fred, I'm going to give a 6. I thought second half he played really well. First half, he just got swamped, which isn't his fault, so I probably would have given him a 4 in the first half, but he got better in the second half. So a 6 for him. I don't want to be giving United players 7s because we've just been annihilated. So I think 6 is a good score tonight. If you get a 6 tonight, you've done well, because nobody deserves 7s. Nobody deserves better than average, apart from Wan-Bissaka and De Gea for me, because they didn't do anything wrong. James, you've got to give him a 4. Bloody hell. You've got to give him a 4. Just couldn't get in the game. Which was a shame for James, because they weren't attacking our right-hand side, so he didn't have to track back. He could have got into the game more. Rashford, 5. Now, that's going to shock people, but does a goal mask a poor performance? I didn't think Rashford played well tonight. I didn't think he was much better than Dan James, but he got the goal. I think that is partly down to the fact that we were just awful as a team, and our front three, again, starved of oxygen. But Rashford, for me, didn't help Brandon Williams out at all. We were 70% possession, Man City, throughout that game. That you can't be goal-langing for that. You've got to track back and help. And he didn't. I didn't see Rashford tracking back and helping Brandon Williams at all. And I saw Kyle Walker bombing on a lot. And I'm like, where is Rashford? I did not see Rashford tracking back enough in that game. So it's all right if we're attacking a lot, but you've got to track back, and he didn't. And he was captain today as well. You've got to help, you've got to help that player. So he didn't, but he got a good goal, so I'll give him a 5. Lingard, 2. Lowest player on the pitch. Didn't even remember he was on the pitch in the first half. Goes from bad to worse. Feel really sorry for him. Time to move on. Turn a new leaf. Start your career again. Not your fault you're getting picked, but really, really, really poor. Nihal says you're being too generous with your ratings tonight, Mark. Jones was at fault for the 3rd goal and Pereira scored an OG. I think I probably have. Sometimes it's hard to gauge, isn't it? I think I probably have been a bit generous. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tonight, out of 10, 3. And I think that might be generous. For all the reasons we've gone through in relation to the tactics there tonight, it just was not anywhere near. You could go lower. To be honest. It was not. It wasn't good. And people are saying you've been way too generous with Lingard. He died. You can't give him anything. But yeah, I think at this point we've just had our arse handed on a plate. Like I say, we've been absolutely demolished. 3-1 is a respectable score for what should have been a lot more. Tactically, that was awful, and all of the coaches should be bloody ashamed of themselves. The players, I expect more from the players in a game like that. I mean, the worrying thing coming out of this game, because I think we need to talk about where we go from here. Fortunately for Ollie, we will beat Norwich on Saturday, because it's the perfect game. Norwich are shit at home. What's the perfect game to keep you in a job and keep the morale up? We'll go and beat Norwich. But I thought that the worrying thing going into this game was that the one thing that they've been able to say this season, despite loads of bad results, we've got a great record against the top 6. We're really good against the big teams. We just need to get it against the lesser teams. Well, we're not getting it against the lesser teams, and now we've been found out against the top 6. Arsenal did us. I know they're not a top 6 club at the moment, but they're traditionally a top 6. And Man City, they are a top 6 club. So it's sort of gone out the window a little bit, hasn't it? With this, oh, we can beat the top 6 clubs. We've been absolutely done over. So that's the worrying thing. With regards to Ollie out, I've got to cover it. I don't think anything changes on that. I don't think that result will be a shock to people who are already Ollie out. They'll be like, well, this is why I'm Ollie out. There might be a few people who are Ollie in starting to think, I don't know about this, but there'll probably still be some people who are staunchly Ollie in. For me, I still stick by the fact that the club is broken from top to bottom. You can change the manager if you want to. I'm not opposed to it. He probably does deserve to go. But whoever you bring into that, they're still dealing with everything that's wrong with the club. As I said, enough is enough. Enough is enough. It needs to change. This week, we've had United fans falling out with each other about who's the bestest fan. Like, can we not move above that and be united in the fact that our club is nowhere near where it should be, and we need to be looking at that rather than arguing with each other about who's a real fan, this, that and the other. That doesn't help where we are. This club, you've got rival fans saying to us now, I feel sorry for you. You shouldn't be here. This is, when rival fans are doing that, they're not even finding it funny anymore. Well, they are, but it's not. It's like, it's beyond a joke. They're a mess. How much further can they fall? What's going on? You need to sell Jesse, says Eric Shun. Mark, Greenwood wasn't good today. You're hyping him too much, and it's going to come and haunt you in the future. I hope not. You've got a very good assist, well weighted, but yeah, he didn't have a great game today. But you've got to protect your young players. I don't think Brandon Williams played well either, but I'm not going to give them rubbish scores because they need protection, don't they? And I think they are both good players. You seem to be generous. Yeah, I've read that one. Thought Matic and Fred were our only good players, says Fahad Al Mayan. It's hard to give players good ratings on the second half when Man City visibly went hot 50% to what they were in the first half. Need to switch to 4-3-3, play high pressing football and invest in the centre of midfield, and United would be a better, says MUFC for life. I mean, the only thing I would say about the second half is that we played like Ollie used to play with 3 midfielders in his first 3 months. I don't know why he ever turned away from that. If he's going to get the sack, I'd like from Norwich him to go, I'm going back to what I did in the first 3 months. I don't know why we started doing this 2 holding midfielders. Carrick at Ollie, body language, several games now. Carrick angry with Ollie, says Ed Matoy. I don't know about that. No excuses after tonight. Midfield needs to be heavily invested in. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now 200 to 250 million on quality midfielders. MUFC flat. Well, I've got Ollie in my eye there. I saw a little smile. Fabrizio says Young is off to Inter, says Premi Prodigy. Interesting. If Williams had a 5 out of 10 today. Shaw would have got a 1, let's be real. He actually tried to get up the field and go at City on the attack. Shaw is crap. Why are we talking about Luke Shaw? Why are we... This is the problem. Why are we talking about Luke Shaw? He didn't even bloody play today. What has that got to do with getting smashed by Man City? That's an agenda, that is. Darren Fletcher said Matic was amazing, says Kean Brady. Christopher Solberg says, felt bad for Lindelof. Players every game, no rest, and today he played 2 positions, yet Jones had the cramps. This team is not coached right at all. I think that's a great point by Christoph Solberg. Lindelof was crap today, but you do have to bring that in. He's played non-stop and he's playing next to Phil Jones. It's a bloody nightmare. Get rid of Ollie. He's a clown, says JB. Ross Gallagher says mentally weak, tactically inept, spineless, no leadership. The club is broken from top to bottom and is being done to change it. Nothing's being done. Franco Riva says we all need to stop buying merchandising. It's the only way the Glazers will notice. Vlad Makarov says, you're right, Mark, enough is enough. Where are the local United fans protesting this horrible management, ownership and garbage players? Well, I don't know, but we'll see. Palms Aquatics, that goal saved Ed Woodward and not signing in January was awful. City took the gas off. It's a bloody United versus City game at home. John Bailey, I've supported this club for 35 years and I'm so tired of this now. I can't see an end to this. I'm really already thinking about next season rather than winning anything this year. Magic Bazaar says 244, watching the end there and cry. City sitting back, singing in Old Trafford. This is the lowest I've ever felt. It actually feels like they own the town now. Ollie out, Woodward out, Glazers out. Rest in peace, Man United. Ed is making Ollie's job impossible with not signing anyone. Thanks for the contribution, James Tucker. It's a long-term plan with Ollie, it seems, says Highbury. Yeah, so long-term, nobody bloody knows it. Lockie MUFC 92, Lingard is so bad. Matic now brings more to the team. I will drive from Belfast to bring him anywhere in the world to get him out. Great to see Gomez. And Big Boy Benny, City saved Ollie's job. Did he take Lingard off? I don't know what that was all about. But yeah, look, it's... I've said everything I need to say on it. I'm just... something enough is enough is the statement, isn't it? But what will change? I don't actually see anything changing anytime soon with Manchester United, and that's the sad thing. I don't. I think they're going to prolong this situation. I think they're going to stick by it. But as Paul was saying in the watch along, what are we waiting for? What is it we're waiting for? It just seems after every bad result we talk about the future, but we're still playing the same Jurassic Park caveman tactics of counter-attacking football. We're not trying to do anything different. And that is the problem with Manchester United. Anyway, look, I think we've tactically exposed what the problems were today. It was a tactical disaster class more than individual errors. It was just a nightmare. And it's very scary that our club have got coaching inexperience like that at one of the biggest clubs in the world. It was a joke. And you've got thousands of United fans on the watch along saying we need to do this after a minute, after 5 minutes, and he waits till half time to protect someone's feelings because he doesn't want to sub them off. We're Manchester United. That game could have been 5-0 at half time. You're lucky it was 3. But if you changed it at 1-0 and you brought Matic on, maybe we would have got a draw out of that game. You know, Matic did provide some stability because we had the numbers in the midfield. He should have done that after 10 minutes. Even better, he should have done it from the start when he saw they weren't playing a number 9. We don't see the signs and then we don't react to the signs until it's too late. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel. Fan cams are going to be coming in very soon. Bottom right hand corner to subscribe. Going to be very interested to see what the fan cameras have got to say. I'll speak to you soon. I'm back tomorrow. Very disappointed indeed. But thanks to all you lot. You'll never get an apology from the club, but you'll get one from the United stand because we are a community. We're in it together. I'm really sorry that this is going on with Manchester United at the moment, and I hope to see a future with this club that we love. But at the moment, I feel, as I said at the weekend, we're 6 years away, and that's if we start doing things right now. It could get worse. It's looking like it's going to get worse. Enough is enough. Something needs to change. Will they do it? I don't hold out much hope. Thanks for watching. Speak to you all soon.